So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. We're going to have the fourth part. I don't think it's the concluding part. It's the fourth part of Venerable Namjong's teaching on the Vajra Sutra. Thank you so much, Venerable, for coming and leading this and stopping by Bangalore and being with us. And these are such awesome teachings. I hope all of you can benefit from it. And thank you so much, Venerable.
Thank you. Can you all hear me on the Zoom? In person? Is it coming through the speakers? Okay. Okay, so hello, welcome. Yeah, as Dean mentioned, it is the fourth session. The plan was to be the concluding session, so let's see how much we can do. In any case, we will start with the normal prayers, but before we even do that, usually we always emphasize how the motivation is important. And I'm just reminded, because I don't think I mentioned it in this series of teachings, although I have mentioned it before. There's another Prajnaparamita teaching that says, with a mind to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings, even you take 7 steps towards the place where the Prajnaparamita teachings are going to be given, you create more merit than having filled the entire universe with the 7 kinds of jewels for, countless eons. So, those of you who have come here, then very good. It says in the context of another sutra, the Golden Light Sutra, it says that it talks about the benefits of a king who then invites a bhikshu to give the Golden Light Sutra teachings in his country. And it says that how the king, it would be good if the king goes to meet that bhikshu at the kind of border of his land, and also talks about the tremendous benefit of doing so for every step he takes towards receiving the bhikshu who's about to teach the Prajnaparamita. That's very good. So anyway, might be too late now, but those of you who come to teachings, always remember that when even before you go home. And some of the people on Zoom, or even, let's say later you're going to go to Dharma somewhere else for teachings, to receive teachings, or go on a retreat, even before you leave for the airport, then try to generate the mind of bodhicitta. And then every step you take, every mile you drive or fly, then there's really incredible benefit. So I was fortunate to, I'm now in India. I just received some very amazing teachings on the setup, but I was very fortunate to, though some of you who know me know that before I leave for a place, I always have a little difficulty packing and getting organized. But this time I was actually pretty early in packing, and then I could set a good motivation prior to going to the airport. So anyway. Okay, so with that, please adjust your motivation, thinking of the purpose of my life. It's the benefit of all sentient beings. And in order to do so, I'm going to now receive this teaching on the Prajnaparamita, the perfection of wisdom. And now we'll have preliminary prayers by
I'll be louder.
Huh?
And you say the first psalm,
Sure.
Page 24, daily prayers.
Sangye Shena Zogi Chona La Janchu Badu Dani Gyatsu Chi Dagi Zogi Soba Dola Penche Sangye Gumba Sho Sangye Shena Zogi Chona La Janchu Badu Dani Gyatsu Dagi Zogi Soba Dola Penche Sangye Gumba Sho Jancho Bado Dade Jansu Shi Dagi Janso Gila Soda Jola Bencher Sange Yoba Shu.
I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha and Dharma of the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. The four immeasured fruits. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be freed from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. The seventh prayer. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginless time and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment. We'll do a short mandala offering. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha peaceful spirit. May all living beings enjoy this pure land.
Yeah.
We'll go to page 73 for the prayers to Shakyamuni Buddha. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings. To you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings. To you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfect and fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings. To you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When a supreme among humans you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides and then said, I am supreme in this world. Listen to a wise then I prostrate. With pure bodies formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 words, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With supreme signs, face like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean. To you, the one born to thusness, I prostrate. the purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies and prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy team qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts. To you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all three, ever devout homage, to all worthy of respects, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew on a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the foe of falls, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death.
Yeah.
The art and perfection of wisdom Sutra. I prostrate to the Arya Trivium. At one time, the Bhagavan was dwelling on the mass of conscious mountain in Rajasthan together with a great community of monks of a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also, at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Thariputra said this to Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Thariputra. Starting with the only son of the lineage of practice the profound perfection of wisdom, should have looked upon it like this. Correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty as inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition, and practice of consciousness are empty. Sariputta, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unsustained, not without stain, artificial, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, no phenomenon. There is no I element and so on, up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, the Bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the endpoint and nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awaken to the unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as truth since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Taita Om Gate Gate Para Sangate Bodhisattva. Shariputra's Bodhisattva's school of worship came in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as we have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, turning the Mati Puja, Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, the surrounding in there, devotee, and my others. And highly praised that by the Bhagavan. Page 81, prayer to the line, page Takini. I proclaim the gathering of the darkness in the three chakras unified in the holy yoga using space by your powers of clairvoyance and magical animation. Look after practitioners like a mother and child.
Akasamara, Shasadara, Samaraya, Pe, Taya, Le Paraga, de Parasanga, de Bodhisattva. By the teaching in the face of him who is possessing the power of truth, may inner and outer hindrances be transformed, may they be dispersed, may they be pacified. Shintum Kulis, may all negative forces opposed to Dharma be completely pacified. May the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified. May we be separated from problems and harmful conditions within Dharma. May all enjoy its being according to the Dharma. And may the auspiciousness and perfect happiness feel right now. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. So, over the last three sessions, we have gone over the general presentation of Dharma as is presented in the Lamrim. Okay. And then we were talking about how the Prajnaparamita fits into all this. And then yesterday, we were in the middle of sort of discussing what this sutra is negating and what it's not negating. In other words, what it's affirming. And in the conversation about that, we were talking about the two truths, the two levels of truth, the conventional truth and ultimate truth. Okay. So then we see this formula again and again in the sutra, where it'll say, you know, a big body is not a big body, therefore it's called a big body, right? The perfect marks are not perfect marks, therefore they are called perfect marks. And if you recall, how then we gloss or interpret those words is a big body is not inherently a big body, right? Therefore, conventionally, it is a big body, right? Right. So, in other words, all these conventional truths are not inherently existent, yet they still function. They still are can perform functions. They still exist conventionally. Okay, right? So then when we go through the rest of the sutra, then we'll see that again and again. So now, since we know that, I thought, well, there's one more thing that I wanted to talk about before we get into the rest of the sutra, as it relates to the object of negation, right? The gotcha. We talked about this yesterday. So what actually is being refuted? Okay. So as I mentioned yesterday, there is a one commentary that I was able to find in Tibetan by Kone Lama Dakpa Shedu. And I was saying how in that, for the beginning of the text, he spends a lot of time going through the object of negation and makes a lot of references, citing Nagarjuna primarily. And I said yesterday, those quotations that he cites from Nagarjuna are the ones that His Holiness has emphasized us to reflect on again and again. Okay. So there's another quotation from Nagarjuna. This is talking about the Tathagata or the Buddha. So the Buddha is not the aggregates. Okay. So the aggregates, we see this also in the Heart Sutra, right? The five aggregates, form, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness. Okay. So these are the psychophysical constituents upon which the person is labeled. Okay. So it's a bit technical, but if you just think of it as the body and mind, okay, the body and mind, yeah, pretty much the aggregates can be subsumed under those two, body and mind. Now, so the Tathagata is not aggregates. Okay, what does this mean? So the Tathagata, or His Holiness often recommends, instead of using this verse as the Tathagata, then you replace it with your own name. So Aban is not the aggregates. Okay, use it for yourself, whatever your name is. Okay, so why not? Yeah, are you your body? No. Are you your mind? No. Okay, so why not? Hmm? It's a component. Okay, okay. So let's go through the whole stanza. So the Tathagata or Aban or Namjong or whoever is not that. Okay, nor separate from the aggregates. Okay, this also we see. This one is a bit easier to see. But we might have a sense that there's some I that's independent from the body and mind. And like we did in our first session 3 weeks ago, remember we did the thought experiment about trading our body and mind with that of someone else, right? And the fact that we could conceive of such a trade shows that we have this concept of an independent I, a self that somehow owns and is in control of the aggregates, right? And I use the example, if we say, okay, I'll trade you my cup for your cup, the owner and the possessor and the possession are separate. And therefore it makes sense that there would be a trade, right? So similarly, the fact that we can think about trading our body and mind with someone else's then shows that we have this concept of an independent owner or controller, body and mind. That's what we consider to be self, right? But when we look at it, that's not possible, right? Because, well, you cannot observe Aban. Sorry, for those of you who on Zoom, Aban, a very experienced student, been coming for many years, is now here in the room. But we cannot witness or observe Aban separate from her aggregates, right? Right? You are wherever your aggregates are, right? And if you think about it, you know, uh, well, the fact that we say I am sitting is because your body is sitting, right? Okay. All right. So not the aggregates, not separate from the aggregates. Yeah. Then also not the collection of the aggregates, right? So we can say, okay, I'm not my body, okay, I'm not my mind, but somehow I'm the collection of my body, right? That's another thought that can come up. Okay, that's also not the case. Okay, So this is a little bit more difficult to understand, but um, we have this technical terminology, which I think is quite helpful. Right? When we talk about dependent origination, dependent arising, we talk about it on three levels. Okay, there's a dependent arising based on um, causing conditions. So everything that arises due to causing conditions is dependent on their causing conditions. And then every phenomena is also dependent on its parts. So if we have a book, right, the book depends on the cover, page one, page two, all this, right? So any phenomena is dependent on its parts. Okay. But the subtlemost understanding of dependent arising is that for anything to exist, it depends on three things. There's a basis of designation, okay? There's a label and a mind that affixes or attaches the label to the base. Now, the example of that, Namjong was very fond of giving, and I also use this a lot, is with letters. Okay? So the famous one, when we have, three lines like this, okay, right? Normally we would say that's an A, right? Right? But you see, those three lines in that particular configuration is the label, sorry, the basis of designation for the A. And we know this because before, we learn the alphabet, we see those three lines in that configuration, but there's no appearance of an A. Yes? Then our parents, our teacher, whoever, then tells us A, right? So A is the label that is given to that basis of designation. And the one affixing the label to the base has to be a mind. Okay. So that's why we say the A is merely labeled by the mind on that basis of designation. There's nothing from the side of those three lines that made it A, right? It's completely arbitrary, right? And the Romans, however long ago, if they took those three lines and said, hey guys, let's call this B, then when we see those three lines, we would have an appearance of B. You understand? Okay.
Sound A is the label.
So, okay. So Dipti here used some interesting terminology. She said the sound A. I think it's very interesting because in the presentation, okay, what is an A? Okay, is A a sound? Or are those three lines on the paper A? Or is A only when I pronounce it? Huh?
Yeah.
All of them put together.
All of them.
Wait a minute. Wait. So hold on. If you just have, okay, we have this book on the table. Okay. A new book came in you know, yeah, from we ordered it on Amazon and we ordered the Heart Sutra or the Vajra Sutra, and it comes here. Okay. So on the first page, if you all have this, right, it says the Exalted Mahayana Sutra. Okay. So even let's just take this word the. Okay. We haven't opened the box, but there's this sutra inside of it. Is there the letter the on the cover? Or does the come into being only when I read it and pronounce it the?
Is there the sound different frequency?
It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that. Okay.
Are they not both dependent on each other? The letter as well as the sound?
No, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I'll tell you why. For something to be truly dependent, remember we were saying dependent, the seed and the sprout, right? So for a sprout to arise, there necessarily has to be the seed. Okay. But, you know, before the baby learns how to read, they can say mama, isn't it? Right? You learn to speak prior to learning how to read, isn't it? So that mama, and in fact, this is something you should know. You know, I'm from Hawaii, aloha. Before the missionaries came to Hawaii, they had no written language. They had no written language. And therefore, but even though no written language, there's, you know, hundreds of thousands of people who would speak fluently, and they just learn it through the, you know, like we learned from our parents. Okay. So because there's an instance of something arising without the other one, then we can prove it's not dependent. You know, just like for example, being a millionaire is not dependent on graduating from university because there's many who, you know, don't graduate university who are millionaires. You understand? So I wouldn't say those two are dependent on each other. Okay. Anyway, that is a little bit of a tangent that I don't want to go into right now because I do want to finish the sutra, believe it or not. Okay. It's a bit of a tangent. It's an interesting one. Let me leave it with you. What actually is the A? Now, I will say, in the normal Tibetan literature or in the normal commentaries on Dudra, collected topics, the introductory debate text, it does seem that letters are sound. Okay. Sutras, texts is also the sound. So this actually in my hand is not the Vajra Sutra. The Vajra Sutra is that which was spoken by the Buddha, right? Now, what we have here is these symbols on the page that then, you know, represent all the words in the Vajra Sutra. But hey, even when I say that this is a debate topic that comes up, when I say Subhuti, those who will acquire merely a single mind of faith upon the words of such sutras as this being explained, okay? Those words are in the sutra. When I utter them, those aren't words of the sutra. When Buddha Shakyamuni uttered them, they were the words of the sutra. You understand? So just keep that in mind. Okay. I was going into all of this because we were making the differentiation between the basis of designation, those three lines, the label A, and the mind affixing the label to the base. Okay? Okay. You got that? The three things for something to be a dependent origination. Okay? All right. Now, there is a in Kone Lama Jakpa Shidrup's commentary, he brings up the most famous example of what it means then to be nearly labeled. Okay, because you hear that a lot, right? Here, when we're talking about the A, yes, it's labeled. But then you see this merely labeled, MERELY. Okay. So in general, mere, it means like nothing more than, right? Right? Merely labeled. So in general, when we say merely labeled, we mean nothing existing from the side of the object, merely labeled by them. Okay? So most famous example that's traditionally given in the traditional texts about something being merely labeled by the mind is a rope, a coiled rope at the time of dusk. Hmm? Okay, yes. Now, you understand dusk when the sun is about to go down? Okay. Then it's just a rope. But you go on into your garden, you see the rope, and you think, oh, it's a snake. Okay. Now, then the next day, when it's a bit brighter out, you go back out into your garden, and then you see there's just a rope. Okay. You had the vivid appearance of the snake, so much so that you like were afraid and you went back inside. Okay? So the rope was the basis upon which your mind designated snake, right? But yet, no snake there whatsoever. Okay. So now, normally how the example is then explained is so just like that, none of your five aggregates is the self, nor is the collection of the aggregates yourself. Just like that rope isn't the snake. Okay. The self is designated or labeled independence on the aggregates, just like the snake was designated on the rope. Okay. Now, what do we think about that? One thing that's very tricky, okay, you see, the the rope is not a uh, valid designation. Sorry, not a valid basis of designation for a snake. But the five aggregates are the valid basis of designation for the eye, isn't it? No, it's not. Ravi, wait, what are you shaking your head for? The five aggregates aren't the valid basis of designation for the eye. No, I'm not. I didn't use the word intrinsically. So I'm just saying. Okay. Remember, we have these two levels of truth. Okay. The I conventionally exists. Okay. And then for anything to exist, it has to have the three: the base of designation, the label, and a mind applying the label to the base. So Ravi, you exist, right? Yes, thank you. And then you must have a base of designation. So what is your base of designation? Your aggregates, right? So and please know this, right? From a conventional level, okay, we can say, um, you know, uh, I'm hungry, right? I am hungry, but what is actually going on? My body is hungry, right? I am sick. Oh, my body is sick. Uh, I am whatever, tall. Okay. Sometimes we do, designate the I on the body solely. Other times I'm confused, right? We're then attributing qualities that the mind has on the I. And those are valid, conventionally speaking, right? We can say that, you know, he's very generous, you know, she's very intelligent, all these things. Sometimes the I then validly gets the attributes from the body, some from the mind. So we see that the body and mind, your body and mind, are the basic designation for you. Okay? Okay? Good. Now, what's interesting, well, and what can be sometimes confusing is we use this example of the rope at dusk to illustrate something, but actually it's quite different because the rope isn't a valid basic designation for a snake, but yet the aggregates are the valid basic designation of the person. So what does that mean? Why then are the aggregates a valid basis for the I, for the self, but the rope isn't the basic designation of the snake? What is the difference? Well, one is a mistake.
True existence. True existence. Oh, this,
Jyoti, I think I recognize your voice, and you still haven't come. You're missing out on the snacks. Okay. So Aban here said, one is a mistake. Yeah. Which is true. Which is true. So, okay. That's actually a very good answer. So, you see, I was going to debate a bit more, but I'm sensitive about the time. So, okay. In the Gelugpa literature, and Lama Tsongkhapa was very big on this, following the commentary of Chandrakirti, right? So we had Nagarjuna, right? By the way, yeah, I when I was coming driving in the city yesterday, going to my hotel, there was a bus next to me, and it was like Nagarjuna, like bus company. I also know there's a Nagarjuna restaurant. I think it's Andhra food. Yeah, which is very spicy. But anyway, I just love how these little things you can see around town. Is that nice? Huh? Water deck. Okay. Nagarjuna Ponda. Yes. So it's just very nice. Anyway, so Chandrakirti then wrote a few commentaries of Nagarjuna's work. And in that, he describes what then makes something valid is that, from a conventional perspective, is that there would be a conventional valid cognition of it. Okay. So remember how I was saying if we wanted to validate whether there is a cup actually in my hand, we would come and use our sense consciousness. So those sense consciousnesses are conventional. And if we realize something, it would be a conventional valid cognition. Okay. So for something to exist conventionally, it needs to be established by a conventionally valid mind. Then it can't be contradicted by another conventional valid cognition, and it cannot be contradicted by ultimate analysis, right? Okay, so what does this mean? The mistake of the snake for the rope, or the rope for the snake, whatever it is, right? Though there might be that appearance, that is later refuted by the conventional valid cognition, right? Coming out the next day and seeing, oh, it's actually a rope. Okay? Or the other famous example we often talk about, the mirage, appears to be water, right? We even, go over thinking it's water, but then when we get there, we realize it's just sand. Right? So now the question comes up, okay? Does the self exist? Yes, right? The self exists conventionally. Yes. Now, does the inherently existent self exist? Does it exist conventionally?
Yes.
Yes. Mhm. Okay. So this is why Chandakirti and Lama Tsongkhapa, they talk about the three ones that need to exist. So the inherently existent self, okay, it's not um, refuted by a conventional valid cognition, but it is refuted by ultimate analysis. Okay, this is a unique presentation of the Prasangika school, that the inherent existence doesn't even exist conventionally. The lower school, the Svatrantika Majjhimika, holds that the inherent existence does exist conventionally. Not ultimately, but conventionally. Okay? So this point, again, is a bit subtle. But what the Svatrantika would hold is that there must be something from the side of the object, some snakeness, some essential identity of a snake that exists from the side of the snake that make it valid to be labeled snake. Thank you. So this teaching is brought to you by Vic's Vapor. I want to thank all of you. Dipti, got this for me. But I remember, many years ago, I had an accident. And that's actually why I taught the Vajra Sutra, because I was actually staying in Bangalore for an entire week, getting rehab because I had gotten into an accident and broken my shoulder. But I just wanted to thank all the beloved supporters here in Bangalore for taking such good care of me throughout the years. I mentioned this to Shanti, who's now in Tushida, but she took really good care of me and picked me up from the bus stand or the train stand whenever I came in. And this week when I came, I ordered an Uber by myself. It was like, yeah. So anyway, thank you. Thought at one point, okay, so I don't do this, but uh, many, 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 many years ago, um, when Lama Zopa Rinpoche was still with us, when he was in Australia, he manifested a stroke. And after that happened, there was a big push for people to do pujas, to do practice, to purify, to collect merit, because the existence of gurus depends on the merit of the students. And that's why this weekend and tomorrow, especially because it's His Holiness' birthday, we're not just going to have cake, but we're going to accumulate merit and say prayers and do all this stuff, so that we can hopefully raise the kind of collective merit selves as some of its disciples, so we can remain on in this world. So anyway, I don't do this. I just get sick because of my own negative karma. But it definitely would be the case that our, beloved gurus, as it says, the Vajra, the holy Vajra body is subject to neither birth nor death, right? But the gurus then can appear to manifest this illness, so that, in this case, Dipti, out of her compassion, then gets medicine, and collected a lot of merits. Okay, anyway, that's an aside. So conventional valid cognition, then we have to understand there's nothing from the side of the object. There's no intrinsic snakeness, right, that make that snake aggregates a valid basis. Okay. And one example that they use is like currency, right? Our notes, right? Banknotes. So especially now, those of you who might know, right? What we have is fiat currency. Have you heard of that? Fiat currency. So in the past, for example, they would use precious metals, gold, silver, as the currency, right? In fact, both in Tibetan, mul is the word for silver, and that is used for money, generally speaking. And also in French, argent is silver, but it's also used as the general word for money. Then, because lugging around all this gold and silver, all those ounces, is quite heavy, they started to make paper money that then would be redeemable for certain ounces of silver or gold, right? Yes, but it was at one point you could go in and trade in the notes for the gold, right? Then now it's lost its basis, right? And so fiat, you know this word, it is also an Italian car company, but fiat just means, they normally talk about the king's fiat. It's just like declaring this is so, right? So although when you look on the Indian notes, there's this thing, I promise to pay the bearer of this note 50 rupees, right? Isn't that weird? Right? What are they going to pay you? That note is 50 rupees, isn't it? Then why did you just say, oh, I promise to pay you 50 rupees? I have the 50 rupees. Okay, I'm a little bit joking. Okay. This is because in the old days, right, you would then have, I promise to pay, $10 worth of gold. And then you go to the bank and get whatever, half an ounce. Back then, half an ounce is $10. So here, what is the 10 rupees? What is the 50 rupees? Okay. We just, have a paper that we then all kind of collectively agree to, right? We can't just I can't just take any ordinary piece of paper, write 20 rupees on it, and then try to, buy a tea or something, right? Right? And even a very good counterfeit note isn't the valid basis for 20 rupees or $20, whatever, right? So that value then has come into being through an agreement with everyone. Just like the A came into being because everyone who knows a certain alphabet, then all of them agrees to call those three letters A, right? So we can't just call anything anything. We can't just call a leaf 20 rupees. We can't just call a piece of paper that I write 20 rupees, 20 rupees, right? But there's also nothing from the side of that piece of paper, some intrinsic 20 uh, rupee ness that makes it a 20 rupee. Even the fact that that is a valid basis for 20 rupees is coming through conventional agreement, through the people of that particular society. You understand this point? You understand? Well, hold on, hold on. Okay, go again. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Aban has a qualm here. Aban has a qualm. Let me understand if I understand. Okay. So what she's saying is, hey, Namjong, 20 rupees is a concept. Okay. A is a concept. T is a concept. But I, for example, now named Tenzin Namjong, I have a different name that my beloved mother gave me. And when I took an earlier level of ordination, I have another name, right? So then my question to you is then what do you consider concepts and what is the real thing? Are you because I will not say that the 20 rupee note, the tea, the cup, all these things are concepts. Well, the 20 rupee note is a physical entity. So now you're saying the 20 rupee note exists on a concept. Wait, so does everything exist on a concept? No. So what doesn't exist on a concept? I don't exist on a concept? Who? Right. No. So you're right. I am not a table. I am not a table. That is right. But see, okay, now I'm not exactly sure where you're coming from, but maybe it's something like this. It does seem that what we're talking about is a little bit superficial in the sense that if we're just talking about whether we call a table, a car, or a car, a table, yes, we could have used the designated whatever this is, we could have called it something else. But the underlying basis of that thing, this thing with a handle that I can put hot or cold water in and drink it, right? That is the real thing. But a cup is somehow a concept. No, so a cup is the real thing. So I guess what I'm getting at is how do we differentiate this, porcelain thing with a handle? Is that a cup? This thing in my hand is a cup? It is. Okay. So then why then are you saying that the 20 rupees is just a concept?
No, all right, this is the company did something that's that's the purpose. Okay? But if I do a T or an A or a Z.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh. Okay.
In Tibetan, and it's a really unbelievable in Tibetan who's stand with me.
Mm.
A definition has a definition, and they are unique, isn't it? The combination.
Okay. Okay. I think well, okay. About wow, I only have 50 minutes left. So let me just answer your question with a couple things that we can think about. One, there's a very good movie, old movie called The Gods Must Be Crazy. Have you seen this? Okay. So anyway, The Gods Must Be Crazy. The opening kind of scene is there's a guy who's flying in a plane over somewhere in Africa, and he has a Coca-Cola bottle and he throws it out. Okay. Now he's in the middle of like sub-Saharan Africa. These people have never seen Coke. I mean, it's a long time ago. Now Coca-Cola is like pervading everywhere. Anyway, this person then picks up this bottle and was like, what the heck is this? Right? So they had no concept. Then all the drama that you can imagine ensues. A more simple example, closer to home. Here in India, with a little bit nicer restaurant, because you eat with your hands, they give you the bowl with the lemon. I don't know if it was some movie or something, but it was some foreigner who comes and then takes the bowl with the lemon, thinks it's some kind of like lemon soup or lemon dessert, and then like drinks the stuff. You see? Point being, there's a difference between like the thing and even like knowing what function that thing has. Okay? But I'm gonna put this all aside because this again is going off into another tangent. What I'm trying to illustrate for you is what it means to be conventionally existent. And those three you should be able to know. Established by valid cognition. Actually, in Tibetan, it says uh, uh, renown to a valid cognition. Tanye pe sema la drakpa. It means like renown to. Yeah. Now, the second one, not invalidated by another valid cognition. Okay. So why it's normally presented as renown is the appearance of water is renowned from the side of the mirage is renowned as water, but it's contradicted by another conventional map of cognition. And then why the third one, it's not refuted by ultimate analysis, is there because of the intrinsically existent person, for example, right? So you understand? Those three have to hold. So what you originally said, why the rope isn't the valid basis of the snake, is because that is invalidated by another conventional valid cognition. Okay. So anyway, just know those three things are needed for it to be, conventionally existent. Okay. Okay. So now, we should know and be able to identify the common mistakes when we deal with emptiness. Okay. One is nihilism. Emptiness means nothing exists. Okay. Second is, and this is in part more confusing because of the language, we also think that emptiness is a kind of blank void, right? Kind of a cosmic nothingness. It's also not that. Okay? Although when we say empty, right, it can mean in certain contexts, okay, you know, the gompa, the center is empty, right? Means there is no one there, right? Right? But when we're talking about, all phenomena are empty, it's not talking about that. In the sense that when we say the center is empty, we're saying or implying it's empty of people, right? Where are all the members? I thought you guys were going to have class today, but when I went to the center, it was empty, right? Meaning the normal members who are there, right? We could look for them and find them in another place. They're at, third wave coffee roasters, right? But here, when we talk about the all phenomena are empty, oh, what that means? Yes, okay, we've heard in the scriptures that means empty of inherent existence. But it's not that then, we find inherent existence somewhere else, right? The center is empty. That means we find the people at the restaurant. No, inherent existence means that just lacks inherent existence. It's empty of inherent existence. Okay. All right. So this is the second mistake. Third is, although we can get some conceptual understanding of emptiness, and after a certain point, we become very expert at all the language, right? Oh, what does emptiness means? Oh, yeah, it means lack of inherent existence. Nothing exists from its own side. Everything's merely a bottom line. We can rattle those things off quite nicely, right? Right? But then, let's see, we're still very far from the real realization. We're still very far from that. Okay. Then another thing we have to keep in mind is that they call this, right, the unity of the two truths. We saw in the Heart Sutra, form is empty, emptiness is form, right? So the form or the cup is the conventional truth, and its lack of inherent existence is its ultimate truth. But you're not going to find those things separate. Wherever the cup exists, the emptiness of the cup exists. And you can't talk about the emptiness of the cup without the conventional basis of the cup. Right? And then the last point, which we just were talking about with the snake and the rope, is that we still, although nothing exists from the side of the object, we can still differentiate between valid designation and invalid designation. They're just not that way because of intrinsic characteristics from the side of the object. In other words, no snakiness from the side of the snake, but because, or yeah, no snakiness from the side of the rope, no snakiness from the side of the snake. Okay, but we can still call the snake the aggregates of the snake. There's a valid base of designation of the snake, not because there's something from the object, but our original, linguistic community. We then come together and say, all right, guys, the that reptile, no legs, slithers around, has a tongue with it, like, can be venomous, cannot be venomous. Okay. Those things, hey, we're going to call that a snake. Okay. That also was just from worldly convention. But worldly convention is enough. Okay. All right. So if you guys understand that, actually, you'll understand a lot of things about emptiness, even if we're not going to cover the whole sutra. So I'm happy. Okay. All right. So maybe in our remaining time, I just wanted to go over a few passages because the main formula, remember, A is not A, therefore it's called A, right? That one we've seen again and again, and that one we know because we've talked about these two levels of truth kind of at length. But there's some other passages that have some other terminology that I wanted to discuss. Okay, so there's this one. It's on page 8. So it says, therefore, thinking of that, the Tathagata said, if by those who know this Dharma treatise as like a boat, even dharmas should be given up, what need is there to mention non-dharmas? Okay, you guys see that? And I think this is brought up at least once or maybe even twice more. This analogy of a boat or a raft. Okay. I think later in the text it says, therefore the Dharma should be abandoned. How much more so what is not Dharma? Okay. So let's understand first this analogy. Okay. When you are crossing a river, the raft or the boat is very useful. You use it to cross the river. But once you're on the other side, then you don't carry the raft with you. You just leave it there. Okay. So what this raft analogy, in my opinion, does, there is this thought that, oh, hey, all these concepts, we need to transcend all these concepts. Actually, the Dharma, ultimate nature is beyond all concepts. So why all this intellectual study? Yeah, you see this? In fact, I think in our prayer book, normally before you recite the Prajnaparamita Sutras, there's this one stanza, Ma Sam Je Me Shera Paru Chin. Shera Paru Chin. Okay. So Ma Sam is like kind of inconceivable. Sam is to think, Ma is a negation word. Je Me. Je is like inexpressible. So sorry, Je is to express. Me again is like cannot be expressed. Right. So what that means, okay? There's a Zen saying that the finger pointing to the moon is not the moon, right? So I think it is good advice to not get so fixated in the words, in the texts, right? But just like if I was trying to point out the moon to you, doing this could help you, right? Very much, right? The sky is a big place. Help you. It's kind of like His Holiness once was asked, do you need a guru to become enlightened? And His Holiness paused and then said, no, but it will save you a lot of time. Yeah, you with me? Yeah. So these texts, yes, they're using words, they're using concepts, and eventually we have to transcend even the concepts. But at our level, we need the raft, just like we need a raft to cross the river. We will need these, correct concepts, the correct commentaries, the correct words to then transcend them. Okay. Then the other thing that's sort of mentioned in the commentary, the Kamala Shila's commentary, is that even this view of emptiness, okay, it often comes up, then this emptiness somehow exists intrinsically. If it's the ultimate nature of all phenomena, right? Is that something that then doesn't depend on the mind? And that too, also, emptiness is also empty. The emptiness of emptiness. Okay. So Kamala Shila, in his view, in his commentary, says, clinging, grasping onto true existence, even the correct view of emptiness, is itself a problem. There's a subtle, form of grasping at true existence that needs to be transcended. Okay. Okay. So then later, I'm just going to skip around to a few maybe difficult passages. Okay. Next page talks about the benefits. So page 9, the Bhagavan said, Subhuti, compared to any son of lineage or daughter of lineage who, completely filling up this billionfold world system with the 7 types of precious things, were to give gifts, if someone having taken even as little as one stanza of 4 lines from this discourse of Dharma, also were to explain and correctly and thoroughly teach it to others on that basis, the heap of merit produced would be much greater, incalculable, and unfathomable. Why is that? Subhuti, because the unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment of the Tathagata, perfectly complete Buddha, arises from it. The Buddha Bhagavans also are produced from it. Okay, so you'll see this a few times, right? Comparing and sort of advertising the tremendous merits of this sutra, where here it says even teaching one stanza. Later it will talk about even reciting one stanza or holding it in the mind and all this. Okay? It's very interesting. So, okay, so you understand, right? Taking, 9, the middle of page 9. But you'll see it a few times. So just to give a comparison, okay? Taking the 7 types of precious things, this is, I think, let me see if I can remember. Gold, silver, diamond, Vaidurya, coral, or red coral, maybe turquoise, and red pearls. Okay. The 7 types of precious things. Yeah. Rinchen na dun. Okay. So taking those, filling the entire universe and giving that, making charity for, yeah, completely filling up the billionfold world system. Okay. How much merit would that be? Amazing, right? Then you're saying compared to that, even then taking one stanza of 4 lines and teach it to others. That's, by the way, why I decided to teach the sutra, because I need the merit. Joking, joking. Okay. It's quite amazing, right? Right? So why would that be? Why would this, reciting, or as we said before, even taking 7 steps toward the place where this is being taught, why would that create so much more merit than, giving all these precious things for many eons? So
And here we have a motivation of trying to understand our bodies. We're taking 7 steps towards a place where it's being brought.
Dharma, you're just a little bit too quiet. I couldn't hear you. Say once more.
If a lower level, then we can't impart wisdom. And here, when you're taking 7 steps towards a place where this is being taught, you are making an attempt, the motivation to learn about the ultimate truth, the most profound learn.
Okay. I think I got your point, which, points to some good things, but I'll just say, because we're, running out of time. Oh, wait, what time do we have till? 12:30? Oh, amazing. Oh, I thought we had only till 12. So I have a whole hour. Oh, but we have snacks. This reminds me, by the way, I always joke around here. You see, there's this very nice other sutra, the Sangata Sutra. Yeah, some of you heard. So in the Sangata Sutra, there's this scene toward the end where there are these people that go to this bodhisattva and they ask the bodhisattva for teachings. And the bodhisattva is like, okay, hey, but before I give you guys teachings, why don't you have some, nice food and drink? And then once you're refreshed, I will give you the Dharma teaching. And the people in the sutra, they then say, no, we don't want snacks. We don't want food. What we need is the precious Dharma. And they say, like, oh, because drinks will be turn into urine, food will turn into excrement. We don't need these things. What we need is the excellent Dharma that will liberate us from samsara. But here we have snacks. I'm a little bit joking, but actually, this illustrates the point of why the teachings are so much seen as so much more precious. Because you see, in terms of let's take it even on the 6 perfections, generosity. Okay, even if we were able to alleviate all of the suffering of poverty and lack of material resources in the world, you see, what Buddha had identified as the root of all of our suffering is actually the fact that we have ignorance. And because we have ignorance, that's why we take rebirth in samsara again and again, right? So even if you're able to live out your life with all the material resources and more that you would want, still you pass away from this life, and then you're going to be reborn in samsara again, and you're going to have to, suffer endlessly. So this wisdom of ultimate reality is the only thing that's going to be able to cut and end your samsara, right? So all of the other, as Lama Zopa Rinpoche used to say, all the other work we have in samsara to accumulate wealth, to get a house, to get a romantic partner, all this stuff, to get a promotion. All of that stuff is endless work. Because even you do it once, hey, since beginningless time in samsara, we have done that over and over again, right? From beginningless lifetimes, we've been kings, queens, on the winning team of the World Cup. We've done all these things again and again. What we've never done, I guarantee, we have never realized emptiness directly. That's guaranteed. Guaranteed. I can say that. Everything else is almost the same guarantee that you have done it. Anything else you set your aspiration for. You've been CEO of the company. You've flown on a spaceship. You've whatever. Isn't that amazing? So there you see why this is so much more precious. Do you? Because only this has the power to cut the root of samsara. Okay. Now, that being said, I mentioned this Choe Lama Dr. Shedu. Okay. Yeah. So apparently, and we're going to do this tomorrow, by the way, in the when we recite the sutra, there's a nice dedication. I don't know if we have it. I'll talk to you afterwards. But there's a nice dedication that was written by a great Nyingma Lama, Ju Mipam Rinpoche. And also the Vajra Sutra, there's a Vajra mantra. And it says, reciting the Vajra mantra gives you the same benefit of having recited the Vajra Sutra 27,000 times. Okay. So in Choe Lama Dr. Shedrup's commentary, he is like, he tells it very bluntly. He says, although there is this famous mantra that says if you recite it, you get the merit of having recited the whole sutra 27,000 times, that would be a kind of absurd consequence. So let's not take that literally. And in that context, he also says, hey, just to recite 4 lines of the sutra gets you more merit than, practicing generosity of the 7 types of jewels for the billionfold world system. That also he glosses in another. And so I'm now, going to say this just to give another, point of view. Remember in the last teaching I mentioned 3 weeks ago, there's this verse by Aryadeva, who says, those of little merit don't even doubt this doctrine, but merely entertaining a doubt about emptiness tears the foundation of samsara. Remember this? Okay. And why? How I explained it, how the great masters explained it, is because if we entertain a doubt, okay, so most people, it's just not even thinking about philosophical things. They're just worried about, worldly life, But if we don't take the appearances as true and we say, hey, wait a minute, do things really exist how they appear? And we're not satisfied with the kind of naive view of reality. And we say, hey, wait a minute, okay, what does it mean that all this talk about merely by the mind, lack of intrinsic existence? And we don't reject it, first off. We then take one step. We then read a commentary. We then go to another teaching of this, right? Gradually, that's going to put us on the path to eventually realizing emptiness, right? It's not just that first doubt then we're liberated. But that first doubt, as they say, every journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, right? So, until you take that first step, you won't reach the destination. So on one level, to say, hey, by taking this first step, that enabled you to get to wherever your final goal, right? Yes, right? Just like these kids now who the first time they receive a soccer ball and the first kick they do, that is now enabling them to later be the World Cup champion, right? So it's not just that first thing, but it puts their life in a whole other direction. Okay. So similarly, when it says, you'll see this often in the sutra, right? Those who, upon hearing the sutra, do not reject it, right, will accumulate a vast stock of merit. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now, I think that's very telling. Right? This is what the Lama was explaining. Then by not rejecting it, okay, so first they'll say, oh man, what is this? All sentient beings have been, liberated. No sentient being has been liberated. This is just some kind of, contradictory talk. And then they, put the sutra down and says, I don't want this. I'm not going to attend another teaching on Pajaparamita, right? It happens. Yes. This is actually why in the Lam Rim it says one of the greatness of the Lam Rim is to see that all Buddhist teachings are free from contradiction. Okay. So then those who don't reject it, then they'll study more, they'll read more, and that will put them on a different trajectory that eventually they'll get the realization of emptiness. And then that will enable them to gain liberation and enlightenment. Right? So that's then another way to think about it. That's a bit more, okay. It's not just, I've read one stanza. Okay, I've collected so much merit. Okay, bas. Right? And with that, let's have a quick break. In fact, if we can, maybe. So I just attended some teachings down in Sera, and Jada Rinpoche, amazing master, amazing Lama. If you've been to the Tibetan teachings, they'll serve the tea, they'll serve the bread, But after they serve the tea and the bread, Jada Rinpoche would say, okay, so you guys enjoy the tea. I'll continue with the teaching. So just listen as you're eating your tea and bread. Okay? So maybe, get the snacks, come back, and maybe I can do the same thing because I do want to cover a few things. Okay. But if you have to use the restroom and so forth, maybe we'll just get back together in 5 minutes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Huh? What is this? I have a concoction for my throat. Oh, is this the one in that those little packets? It's kashaya. Okay, my Indian friends, kashaya, do you know? So yeah, we're just talking about the tremendous benefits of engaging in the sutra, whether it is writing, reading, reflecting, or even is a common practice to write out the sutras in gold, even print out the sutras. So it is extremely meritorious, even if it's not to quite be taken literally, that it generates more merit that second than filling the whole world with the seven kinds of jewels. It is an extremely meritorious thing to do. And I will say something also when Namjong Rinpoche often gave the advice that even if we do not understand the words of the sutra that well, by merely listening to the teachings or reciting them, we do collect a lot of imprints in the mind that then ripen at a future time. And so he would often discuss the importance of gaining imprints, especially about emptiness, because as some of you know, Shariputra, one of the foremost disciples of Buddha, it is said that even merely hearing one verse of Dharma, he received realization, right? And that is because in many of his past lives, he accumulated many imprints of listening to Dharma. So then when all the causes came together, he could then gain realization. So we talked about last night Vasubandhu, with the disciple who'd been a pigeon, hearing all those words of the Abhidharma, and then in his next life was able to become a very great scholar. So anyway, yeah, please make effort in these Prajnaparamita Sutras or in Dharma more generally, and it'll have a lot of benefits in the future. Okay. So then I see in the questions in the Zoom, how does the stream enter understanding enter the stream if saying so means they grasp to the eye? So here again, we need to understand these two levels of truth, okay? So this is one of the other passages that they want to cover. Okay, so here again on page 9. Subhuti, what do you think about this? Does the stream enterer think, I have attained the result of stream enterer? Subhuti replied, Bhagavan, it is not so. Why is that, Bhagavan? Because one does not enter anything whatsoever, therefore one is called stream enterer. Okay. Then it goes on, has the once returner, does the once returner think I've attained the result of once returner? And they make a similar statement. Okay. So by now, I hope you guys are able to interpret that in the correct way. Okay. So again, conventionally speaking, of course, the stream enterer. And so basically what this means, by the way, it's a level of realization that one achieves on the path. Now, in the Prasangika school, it does correspond to the path of seeing of the Shravaka path. Okay? Roughly speaking, we can say that. Okay. And just like a stream, if you like enter the stream and you then float down all the way, right? So what that means is they've entered, and now that they've reached the path of seeing, means they have a direct realization of emptiness. Their attainment of nirvana is going to come rather quickly. It says in the text, once you reach stream enter, even the lowest kind of faculty practitioner, by the time they enter stream enter, it'll be 16 lifetimes maximum that they'll achieve nirvana. Okay? Anyway, so on a conventional level, of course, the stream enter knows they're a stream enter, right? It's true, right? They know, everyone who has these kind of high level realizations, you know you have that realization. Okay. So here, it just doesn't mean the stream enterer does not think whatsoever that I have attained the result of stream entry. But they, just as, remember, we talked about the practice of giving, where the three spheres, the giver, the gift, and the act of giving are all empty of inherent existence. So too, the one attaining the state of stream enter, the act of attaining stream enter, and the kind of realization of stream enter itself are also, the three of them, not dependently originated. So when you can interpret it either as Bhagavan, because one does not enter into anything whatsoever, means not entering into any concept of inherent existence. So when they think, does the stream enter think I means a truly existent, inherently existent I? Does that one think does that inherently existent I attain the result of stream enter? No, that one is not so, because there is no inherently existent I. Okay? So conventionally, of course, the conventional I does attain these realizations. Ultimately, there is no, inherently existent realization, no one attaining an inherently existent realization. Okay? Now, on the next page, page 10, so Subhuti, what do you think about this? Does the Arhat, so the Arhat is one who's attained liberation from samsara. Does the Arhat think I've attained the result of Arhatship? Subhuti replied, Bhagavan, it is not so. Why is that? Because the phenomenon called Arhat does not exist whatsoever. So is that literal? No, it means the phenomena Arhat does not exist inherently whatsoever. Okay, then Bhagavan, if the Arhat were to think, I have attained the result of Arhatship, that itself would be grasping of that as a self, grasping as a sending being, grasping as a living being, grasping as a person. So here again, if the Arhat were to think an inherently existent I has attained the result of Arhatship, that would be then grasping. Okay? Okay? So you guys, just apply these this differentiation of the two truths on everything that we see here. Okay? So then, this generating the mind not abiding in form, not abiding in sound, smell, taste, tactility, and phenomena, then it means abiding in the concept of true existence of form. Okay? Right, we know this. All right. Okay. So then, there's another little discussion that I want to talk about. And here we see this concept of, can the Buddha be seen through form? Can the Buddha be seen through form? Okay. So, here on page 12, we see this little verse or a couple stanzas. The Tathagata says, Subhuti, what do you think about this? Is one to be viewed as the Tathagata Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, due to the 32 marks of great being? Subhuti replied, Bhagavan, it is not so. Why is that, Bhagavan? Because those 32 marks of great being that are taught by the Tathagata are taught by the Tathagata as no marks. Therefore, they are called 32 marks of a Tathagata. And I think later on, it says that if the Tathagata were to be viewed as being the Tathagata through the existence of the perfect marks, then even the wheel turning king would be a Tathagata. I don't know, can you do the textual search? So I'll explain. So the Chakravartin king, have you heard this? Wheel turning king. Have you heard this? Okay. So these are beings who are, very powerful, much more powerful than any king or president we have in the world, because they say they're able to rule over the entire world. Okay. Now, they're able to do this because of merit, right? Because of the merit they've achieved in previous lifetimes. But the point of this is one of the benefits is they are said to be able to then lead their beings, the beings within their kingdom, to abide in the 10 virtues and abandon the 10 non-virtues. Do you understand? Right? So, some of you will know, I alluded to it in another teaching, the Golden Light Sutra. In the Golden Light Sutra, there is this one chapter on the inviolable, that which cannot be violated, inviolable, like responsibilities of a king, So the point is, now, believe it or not, based on what we see in the world, what is outlined in that treatise is that the main responsibility of the king, or the president, or whoever's in charge, queen, whoever, is to make sure that their subjects practice virtue and abandon non-virtue. And it talks about in great detail when the king of a land does not sort of punish those who are deserving of punishment, and instead comes to praise those who are corrupt, who are dishonest, who are doing bad things, then all of these various, adverse conditions will befall the land. You see? Yeah, you understand? So, the Chakravartin king uses this great power that they have to establish his or her people into Dharma practice, into abandoning virtue and all this. Okay. So, though we talk about the 32 perfect marks of the Buddha, on the hand, there are wheels, having kind of perfect straight teeth, all these things. It's talked about in Abhismile. Now, the Buddha has the 32 marks and the 80 minor signs. And if you, next time you go to Bodh Gaya, when you walk in, you walk down the stairs toward the main stupa, you'll see on the left, there's this footprint. Have you seen that? So on the footprint is actually these 32 major and 80 minor signs of the Buddha. It's very common in the Pali tradition to have this depiction of those signs. Now, what I'm saying is, the Chakravartin kings also have these marks because of their great merit. So on one level, we can see on a conventional level, okay, on the ultimate level, it says, yes, the 32 marks of a great being are taught by the Tathagata as no marks. Therefore, they are called the 32 marks, right? In other words, the 32 marks are not inherently 32 marks. Therefore, they are just conventionally 32 marks of the Tathagata. Later in the text, when we see the existence of the 32 marks, even on a conventional level, is not the sign to be taken as a Buddha, Because if that were the case, then even a Chakravartin king would be a Buddha. Okay. So that's one bit of confusion I wanted to clear up. Understand? Now, in Drekpa Shedrup's commentary, because it does talk about how for the Buddha, even attaining the Ushnisha of the Buddha, it requires a massive merit so great that this question comes up. Well, does that mean the Chakravartin king has the same level of merit as the Buddha? And no, that's not the case. Because the Buddha's Ushnisha is also conjoined with the, omniscient mind of the Buddha, right? So the mere appearance of the signs, right? There was actually an instance in Sutra where I think it was a kind of demon or other spirit who kind of emanate bodies like a shapeshifter, and emanated a body that was entirely, identical to the Buddha, just from appearance. I mean, we call that now a deep fake, right? Right. So you can imagine, right, a very, realistic appearance, just like the actual Buddha, right? But that mere appearance is not the Buddha unless it is conjoined with the omniscient mind of the Buddha. Right? Right. So later on in the text, you'll see this very other famous stanza. Those who see me as form, those who hear me as sound, do not know me because of having wrongly engaged. The Buddhas are dharmata. Since there's nothing to be known, could you find this? Find that. Since there is nothing, since it is unable to be known, there's nothing to be known. Something like this, right? Right. So merely the form, is not the Buddha, but only the form that comes conjoined with the look up unable to be known, I think. Those who see me as form. Oh yeah, there we go. Here, yeah. Since dharmata is not to be known. Okay, good. Oop. Yeah. Just scroll up a little bit. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Keep going. There we go. Whoever sees me as form. Oh, you see, I don't get the merit of having memorized a four-line verse. Whoever sees me as form, whoever knows me as sound, have wrongly engaged by abandoning those beings who do not see me. The Buddhas are Dharmata, viewed the guides of the Dharmakaya. Since Dharmata is not to be known, it is unable to be known. Okay, this is a little bit tricky, but you see, Buddhas are Dharmata. So Dharmata is uh, the emptiness, right? And within the four bodies of the Buddha, we have what's called the nature truth body and the wisdom truth body, the Dharmakaya, right? So the mind of the Buddha, we can say is the Dharmakaya. Also, the lack of inherent existence of the Buddha's mind is also the nature truth body. Okay. So since dharmata is not to be known, means the emptiness of the Buddha's mind, it is said, can only be perceived directly by another Buddha. It is unable to be known by sentient being. Okay, so the upshot of this stanza is, you see, just the mere form, just the mere sound is not the Buddha, but that the form body of the Buddha, right? The the person of the Buddha, any person has to be designated on the combination of the aggregates, body and mind. So Shakyamuni Buddha is that form, the physical form he took, it was then, conjoined with the mind of the Buddha. It says then, okay, some of you might know this text or this practice of the white umbrella deity. Yeah, you've heard of it? It says that then the Buddha, from his Ushnisha, the sound came from the Buddha, from the Ushnisha, not from the mouth. Okay. It also says that then the Buddha's body is omniscient. The Buddha's body and mind are in inseparable oneness. Okay. So those who just see the mere form, not keeping in mind this indifferentiability of Buddha's body and mind, do not see the actual Buddha. Okay. All right. Now, all that being said, Dr. Sheru then stresses, okay, because especially when you start to go to the Tibetan Gompas, you'll see these very beautiful statues, you'll see the beautiful temples. And then some people then will point to this in the sutra. Oh, you can stop the screen share. They'll see these sutras and say, oh, you see, those who see me as form don't see me. Therefore, why do you have all these statues? Right. Now, those of you who know Lama Zopa was very big into building holy objects. Before the Buddha passed away, he did make this comment that whether one makes offerings to a statue or representation of me, or making an offering to the actual Tathagata, the actual Buddha, they create the same level of merit. It is also said that even merely seeing a statue or image of the Buddha, one creates, inconceivable amount of merit, such that even seeing the Buddha once, it says, even seeing the Buddha once with a mind of anger, one then still generates the cause to meet 10 million Buddhas in the future. Okay. Which is why in FPMT circles, you'll see many holy objects like this. So, this is not wrong. Okay? It does have genuine value on a conventional level as a support for practice. And you even know, hopefully, when you come into a nice gompa or place with nice religious artwork, it does affect the mind. There is a relationship between your mind and the environment you abide in, right? But if you then see these as intrinsically real, right? Then that's where you can go into some problems, And as Shantideva says, since our enlightenment comes from both sentient beings and the Buddhas, why do we only revere one and not the other? There was a story, many years ago. I think it was yeah, So I'm not criticizing, by the way. I'm not criticizing. But I think it was some, rich family, maybe even the royal family in Thailand, donated 50 kgs of gold to the stupa in Bodh Gaya. And now at the top of the stupa they have this. So yeah, 50 kgs of gold. I think at that time was about 40, $50 million. Yeah. Wow. So I myself, okay, I have a quite extensive altar. Um, but in my experience, fundraising for, the building of holy objects, or, we're going to offer gold to the statue of the Buddha, a lot of people get very excited, right? It's very easy to do that kind of fundraising. But other types of fundraising, medicine for the sick, um, food for the hungry, disaster relief and so forth, it's not as kind of, yeah, not as popular. So, as Shantideva says, the best way to please the Buddhas is by pleasing sentient beings. So Rinpoche would give the advice that when we offer charity to, someone less fortunate, we think that this act of charity is my offering to the Buddhas, is my offering to my gurus, like this. Now, that being said, through the skillful means of the Buddha, you know, those people who get very excited to offer for statues and whatnot, that is good. They should be celebrated. I'm not criticizing. Right? But through the skillful means of the Buddha, you know, to help them start to get over their miserliness, then it is good that they at least have something they're excited about to offer to them, isn't it? Okay. So we're almost out of time. I'll just talk about two more things and then we'll end. You will see in the text there's this thought about when the Buddha was with the king of Kalinga, you know, and practicing patience. Then at that time there didn't arise any thought of the eye or something like this, right? So just so you know, this is a story that's actually in the Jataka tales, past life stories of the Buddha. And at one time, um, so before he became enlightened, and he was known as the the rishi of patience, the kind of sage of patience. Now, as the story goes, the king of Kalinga, was married, and his wife then goes into the forest where the Buddha in his past life was living and practicing, and brings with her, many of the other maidens, and this practitioner then just gives them some small teachings, and the queen, as well as all the other maidens, were quite enamored with this rishi. So the husband gets jealous, and then says, "Okay, you say you're a preacher of patience. then proceeds to cut off all the limbs one by one as a test to this bodhisattva. So then when here in the sutra it says, at that time there did not arise within me the notion of self, then just as we saw for the practice of generosity, that the giver, the gift, and the act of giving are not inherently existent, then the one practicing patience, and here, there are three levels of patience. One is just the non-responding to harm. Okay. So the person practicing patience, the harm in relation to which we have to practice patience, and the actual practice of patience also are, dependently arisen. And so this is another instance whereby each of the first five perfections are then enhanced by the Bodhisattva's practice of wisdom. You understand? Yeah. All right. So then, last thing I wanted to cover is this very, beautiful stanza. It's right at the end, and we say it at the beginning of the teachings, right? Like a star, a visual aberration, lamp, flame, illusion, a dewdrop, a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See all conditioned phenomena as such. Okay. If you want to do a screen share, you can. Okay. I'll first mention as we get the screen share up and running. When Lamso Rinpoche would lead teachings, he would often then, at this point in the preliminary prayers, then stop and do a very slow chanting to allow us time to meditate. But very drawn out. And the point of which point of it is that we then use that time to meditate. Anyway, so I wanted to explain this stanza. So compounded, right? Sometimes you see it as conditioned phenomena, means everything that's arisen from cause and conditions. Okay. So there in Jakashedup's commentary, then these 9 similes, star, visual aberration, lamp, illusion, dew, bubble, dream, lightning, cloud, there's 9. He says that there are then 3 clusters. Okay. So the first 3, the star, but star, it's not in order. Dewdrop, lightning, and a cloud, those are examples of impermanence. Okay. So the stars, they're visible at night, but during the day, it's not that the stars no longer exist. It's that the light of the sun overpowers, so we can't see. Okay. So similarly, phenomena only appear in certain conditions, and they change when their conditions change, right? And they can vanish when the conditions seem to vanish. So the next one, this visual aberration. Okay, so sorry. So those 4 are impermanence, and then we have visual aberration, illusion, and dream. Those are examples of illusoriness. And then a lamp flame and a bubble are examples of dependent origination. Okay. So this is Drakashedup's commentary. However, I have seen in another commentary, maybe it was an oral commentary, that you can all just take this as some as examples of impermanence, others as examples of emptiness. Okay. So the visual aberration, Rabgit in Tibetan, yeah. This is when you have floaters in the eye. Maybe, some things. It's just some little stuff in your eyeball, or like with cataracts, they sometimes call it. So these are appearances that have no external reference. Okay. So it appears to be somehow out there, but there's nothing out there that's appearing. You know what I mean? Even though there's an appearance, the appearance is in accord with reality. All right. So the lamp flame, this is another very famous example of impermanence. And we can see the impermanence at the last moment when the butter or something runs out. But actually, every moment that goes by, a little bit of that butter is being burned, and gradually the fuel is being exhausted. Okay? So what we actually call the flame is not some, persisting entity, even while it's still burning, right? But it appears, okay, the lamp is still burning, great, right? But it's not a single persisting entity, right? But rather, even what we might call a flame, oh, our butter lamp, it burned for, 4 hours, okay. We are then taking these moments and designating on that continuum that's, sort of one persisting entity. So similarly, the self is a continuity, a conventional continuity that is then designated on individual moments. Yes? And like, for example, again, this is a valid convention, when we see a picture of ourselves when we were, young, say, the first time we went to karaoke, then, someone took a picture of us with a microphone, right? And then we would say later, oh, that was me when I went to karaoke for the first time. Or you guys say karaoke. For the first time when I was, 16, right? That was me. Well, the thing is, convention, that is you, but really, every one of your cells is completely different. You probably think in an entirely different way than you were when you're 16, and so forth, right? Yet, so every bit of your basis designation is now different, yet it is conventionally valid to say that is me when I was 16. Okay? All right, illusion. That we see, it appears in one way, it doesn't exist in another. The dewdrop, this is then related to impermanence. In the morning, when there's dew, when the sun comes up a bit more, it gets warmer, it vanishes, right? So then the bubble, that is then cited as the example of dependent origination based on certain causes, the water, maybe some waves, the impact of the wave and whatnot. Then the bubble appears, which is hollow, and then, vanishes, instantly when it gets, pricked or touched, or even another strong wind blows against it. The dream, again, is fully, vivid and appears real when it's occurring. But later when we wake up, we realize it was just a dream. There's no existence there. So again, another example of the difference between appearance and reality. Lightning, again, is famous in the world for being something that exists only for a moment, right? Brilliant, brilliant flash of light, but just as quickly as it appears, it's gone. And then a cloud, again, looks substantial from a distance, but when you get there, you know, there's nothing. So then anyway, these 9 similes, we should, we can and should then meditate on and remember these different elements of impermanence, illusoriness, and origination. Okay. So yeah, with that, let me just kind of bring things together. Okay. I guess the main point to keep in mind is these 2 levels of truth. And the conventional level of reality exists, it operates, it functions, yet ultimately nothing exists in and of itself from its own side. Yeah. Yeah, since we're already out of time, I might have one more question. And then why don't we wrap up? Or if you don't need, that's great. You guys are experts.
There is no question. How does
understanding the Diamond Sutra help us loosen that grip?
There's
Oh.
Can I read it?
Sure.
So they say, why do we hold so tightly to the identities and stories we tell about ourselves or someone else, even when we know they're causing suffering? How does the Diamond Sutra help loosen that grip?
Oh, sorry. Okay. Why do we hold so tightly to identities and the stories we tell about ourselves or someone else, even when we know they're causing suffering? Well, this question, you see, there will be particular, uncommon points to everyone, right? But, on a general level, we like to keep things, this is my opinion, okay? We like to keep things in neat boxes, in little categories, right? Isn't it? Actually, the world is very nuanced and complex, right? But to carry on this level of complexity is difficult. It's cognitively engaging and tiring. So we would rather just think in very simple terms, friend, stranger, and then we have these labels of people. Oh, we might even say it like this, right? Oh, I hear this a lot. Namjong, you're just saying that because you're American. Huh? No. Right? You're just saying that because you're a monk. You're just saying that because of this. No. All Americans don't think the same way. All monks don't think the same way. No way. Right? But yet it's very easy to just then kind of dismiss, oh, like that. So you see, why do we hold on to these identities about ourselves and so on, even when we know they're causing suffering? So here's the thing. We have different sufferings we can choose from. We have the suffering of living under the false impression of someone, or we have the suffering of really getting to know the situation well enough that we can get an accurate view of things. And for some, all that effort to really understand all the nuances is too tough. So they'll just, you know what we say? The devil that you know. Right? It's just easier to do. You know, I know I'm wrong, but I don't have time to think about this. I'll just stay wrong. That's my thought. What do you think? Okay. Then secondly, how does the Dharma Sutra, the Vajra Sutra, help us reduce, loosen this grip? Well, how does understanding? So I think I mentioned this in the first week. We talked about the monster in the closet, right? There's no monster in the closet. We believe there's a monster in the closet, or the child believes there's a monster in the closet, so it gets so much fear. But then going to the closet, flipping on the lights, and then seeing there's no monster there, then the fear automatically goes away. Okay? So, of course, the real, when you say, how does understanding the Diamond Sutra, there's different levels of understanding. If we have the full realization about what is actually talked about with emptiness and lack of inherent existence, and we have realization of emptiness, then of course, that's going to be the antidote to this fixed view of things. But even before that, even entertaining this view, giving a little bit of pause and saying, hey, things don't necessarily exist the way they appear to me, you know, and not just believe what the mind might grasp after in the first moment, you know, and just say, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? Even that little pumping the brakes, so to speak, can help, you know? And recognizing, yeah, this complexity. You know, when we see the so-called enemy, we might view them as 100% bad. But knowing that that's a projection, no one is 100% bad. You know, and even my own perception of them being bad could just be because of my own kind of preferences. You know, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Yeah. I don't know when I'm going to be back again, so we can take a little bit more time. Although our lunch is getting cold, this will be a time when they say we don't need lunch. We need the true understanding of Dharma. So Ravi, and then we'll go back to the chat. Ravi, what's up?
The continuum of consciousness is called without that non-continuum.
Hmm? Yeah, just speak a little bit louder. There's a fan on and all this.
So it says the continuum of consciousness is that brought by the Tathagata as non-continuum.
Yeah.
So it is that
Ravi, we should be able to do this. He's saying in the sutra it says the continuum of consciousness is taught by the Tathagata as not being a continuum. What does this mean? Okay, so it's the same form. A is not A, therefore it is called A, right? So that which is not an inherently existent continuum, although it's not inherently existent, it exists conventionally. And that which exists conventionally as a continuum of consciousness, but doesn't exist inherently, is what we call continuum of consciousness. Okay, we have one more question. Has wrongly engaged by abandoning. The question is abandoning what? Okay. So I don't have a commentary, that part in the commentary, but what I would think is this, that those who see me as form, those who view me as sound, have wrongly engaged to abandoning. Okay. The easier explanation that comes first to my mind is to then think those who see me as inherently existing sound or inherently existing form do not see me through abandoning the correct view of ultimate reality. Yeah, that's what I would. That's what I would think. Okay. Any more questions? So, hey, can we just appreciate for 1 second? I'm not sure how many of you thought I would do it, but in my opinion, we have covered the entire sutra. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. We got to the star vision. Okay. Now, some of you might be thinking, I see the smiles on some of your faces. You're thinking, wait a minute, Namjong, you skipped about 10 pages. But remember what I said at the beginning. We understand the first one, then that same logic, refuting the ultimate, affirming the conventional, we do that for the rest. Right? That's what we do. And then a few of those other terminologies that we don't know about, stream enter, marks and signs of Buddha, the story about the king of Kalinga, I wanted to cover those. Right? Now, one other thing about arranged fields. Okay. Now, I didn't really cover that, but the point is, these are the pure lands of the Buddha. And the very famous one, okay, Sukhavati Pure Land, Dewachan, is the Pure Land of Amitabha Buddha. I see someone from Singapore here. So very, Amitabha Buddhist Center, right? Then Pure Land, everyone's so wanting to get reborn in the Pure Land, okay? And what maybe some people fail to realize, actually, every Buddha has a Pure Land. Every Buddha has a Pure Land. It's not just certain ones have and others don't. Every Buddha has a Pure Land. And so the Bodhisattva, one of their main things when they're on the path, they're accumulating merit to establish the cause for their Pure Land, right? So then it says, I shall actualize arranged fields means I shall, attain my Buddha Pure Land. Okay. But that which is an arranged field is not an arranged field, therefore it's called an arranged field. Then we know. Doesn't exist inherently, exists conventionally. What is an arranged field, but something that just conventionally exists. Okay. Now I will say. In general, it is said to be a lot easier to be reborn in the Pure Land of Amitabha Buddha. There are other Pure Lands where only bodhisattvas can go. It's like very hard to get the visa. It needs to be Arya Bodhisattva to go to the Pure Land. Okay, but Amitabha Buddha, through his infinite compassion, made special prayers that anyone, means even an ordinary being, no bodhisattva, no direct realization of emptiness, right? As long as they have faith, they, remember me at the time of death, so forth, they can be born. Now, here we have 2 more minutes, right? I know someone, and I don't need to criticize anyone. And so I'm sorry. We can blame it on the medicine, okay? But I know, there are certain instances in Sutra where, just like in this Vajra Sutra, it says, even reciting one 4-line verse from the Sutra, you create more merit than offering jewels to build, in the building for a world system, right? You'll also see statements that say merely reciting the name around the time of Buddha creates the cause of attaining birth in the Pure Land, right? And I know some people who then take that very literally, and just you know, for and they just say this again and again and again, tens of thousands of times every day. But you know how I mentioned in this commentary, then Dr. Shedrup says, actually, that statement about the merit of the Vajra Sutra can't be taken quite literally, but has to be explained like this. And another commentary in the Sergei textbook, it states that statement of just reciting the name of Amitabha Buddha will, grant rebirth in the pure realm of Amitabha. That's taken as something not to be taken literally. Okay? And at the very least, you also need the mind of bodhicitta, even on a contrived way, right? Because you see, these pure lands of the Buddha, it's like heaven, right? It's like heaven. And you could think, oh, this world is so tough, right? It says in Sukhavati, by the way, that the word suffering doesn't even exist. There's no true suffering. Okay? In the Four Noble Truths, there's no true suffering. So that means no one gets colds, no one gets hungry, all this stuff. There's no suffering. Then you could think someone with a motivation, they're on earth, they think, oh, I'm suffering so much, right? I don't want to suffer anymore. Oh, I hear about, Sukhavati Pure Land. I don't want to suffer anymore. I'm going to be reborn there. What is that motivation? Huh? Desire not to suffer for oneself alone. Right? No talk of others. Okay? So, I'll tell you one more story and then I'll go. I think I told you this story in other contexts. I forget if I told it to you guys, but early in my Dharma career, I had a question because sometimes in certain practices, like for example, at the end of the King of Prayers, which some know, some are memorizing, thumbs up to you. Then there's this aspiration to be reborn in Sukhavati. Okay? Then in other contexts, in the sixth session Guru Yoga, for example, there's a prayer to be reborn in Shambhala Pure Land, the Pure Land of Kala Chakra. And then in other practices, you see the aspiration to be born in Tushita Pure Land. So I had a question. Well, if in certain practices I'm praying to be born in this Pure Land and others in this and this, is that somehow like diluting my karma? Is it like confusing, where my aspirations are going to be directed, right? Because you can only go to one, right? So I asked my teacher this, and well, I was talking through a translator, and this was one of the first times where he actually showed a little aspect of being displeased with me. And he was like, why do you want to be reborn purely? I was like, oh, okay. I said, well, because in the Pure Land, there's many Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that exist. You can receive teachings directly from them. And so it gives the most, conducive conditions for practicing Dharma. And he said, oh, okay. in that case, but the thought I got was, and later in the text by Lama Tsongkhapa, who, by the way, wrote a whole prayer to be born in Sukhavati and also wrote a commentary on that prayer. And he says, you definitely need the mind of bodhicitta to be born there. To think, I must achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Therefore, I need the most conducive conditions to practice. Therefore, I want to be reborn in this pure land, where I can see the teachings directly from the Buddhas, all those. And not have to get sick, all the other kind of problems that we have in this world. But even that, I had this doubt. You see, if you just have contrived bodhicitta, means not the actual bodhicitta, but just some with effort. And then you're born in Sukhavati. Okay, I'll put it this way. One of it says in the text that in order to realize the path of seeing, you have to do it in the desire realm. Means, those three realms, desire realm, formless realm. We are, in case you haven't noticed, we're in the desire realm. Okay. So there's this debate that comes up because if you were just an ordinary being, okay, and with contrived bodhicitta, you're then born in Sukhavati, you have to then take rebirth in, let's say, Earth again, in order to achieve the path of seeing. And as I mentioned, there's not even the word suffering. If there's not even the word suffering, then how are you going to be able to generate compassion? You don't see suffering, right? So in my opinion, very best place you can get reborn after this life, I think, is going to be again on this planet itself. Now, that's particularly true if you have a connection with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. If you don't, you still have an opportunity to do so, in my opinion. Because in this world, there's enough suffering that you can generate renunciation. Also, the Vajrayana teachings exist, and those don't exist in many places. Of course, you can pray to be reborn in, say, Vajrayogini Pure Land, where there is Tantra, they do say. But that, I'm not sure. That might take a little bit harder visa to get. Okay. Anyway, sorry, just saying a few things. So why don't we end it there? So let us then dedicate the merit, all of the merit from Avan. So Avan just said, aren't the bodhisattvas more helpful to us than the Buddhists themselves? Is that your question? Okay. Before I answer, I want to ask you a question. Why do you think that? Okay, so now I asked her, why would she think that? And she says, because the help from bodhisattvas are instant. And the help from Buddhists is not instant? Oops. Okay, so here's one thing you have to understand, okay, Avan. First of all, the help from Buddhists can also be instant. As it says in the King of Prayers, on every atom are Buddhas, Numberless is Adam, each emission holds the bodhisattvas, and the whole realm of phenomena is entirely filled in this way. Okay. Now, it does say that then the Buddhas are existing everywhere. On every atom, right here in this space in front of me, there's countless Buddhas, right here. Now, the thing is, due to our karma, we cannot see them, right? Then it also says, it's due to our karma that we have the kind of appearances that we have. Also in that Sangata Sutra that I mentioned, the Buddha says, I appear in whatever form is necessary to benefit sentient beings. In the land of the yakshas, I appear in the form of a yaksha, right? In the land of the humans, I appear in the form of a human, right? By whatever, he also continues, to those sentient beings who have the karma to be subdued by a bodhisattva, I appear as a bodhisattva. To those beings who have the karma to be subdued by yaksha, I appear in the form of a yaksha, right? To those beings who have the karma to be reborn as a sangha did, as a dog, I appear in the form of a dog, okay? So, as we saw even in the Heart Sutra, this Avalokiteshvara, right? In the retinue of the Buddha was appearing in the form of a bodhisattva, but in actuality, Avalokiteshvara is a Buddha, but appearing in the form of a bodhisattva. Okay? So now, please relate it to, well, you can then relate it to your guru. Okay? The guru who might take the form of, an ordinary being, right? That's due to our karma. We cannot see the full Buddha with the 32 marks and all this stuff we were just talking about. Who do we have the karma to see? His Holiness the Dharma. There's a very famous story of one of these teachers. I'm sorry, a great former abbot of Gyume. His name was Urgen Seitan Rinpoche, and he said when he first of all, once when he went to Vulture's Peak, Rajgriya, we see it as a normal mountain. He saw it as a stack of Prajnaparamita texts. And so he said, I'm not going to walk on that. I'm not going to go to the top. You understand? Then once when he met His Holiness, we see, Tibetan, right? Wears glasses, like all this stuff, right? He saw the form of Padmapani. Padmapani is a two-armed form of Avalokiteshvara, white in color, holding a lotus. So what we see is according to our karma. You understand? So those ones we say, the Bodhisattva, they're more direct. The Buddhas could be just appearing in that guise for us. And who knows, even these ones we see in real life, the person who carried my suitcase up to my hotel room, who knows if they're a Buddha, Bodhisattva, right? Who knows? They offered a nice benefit to me, right? That's also nice to keep in mind. Okay? All right, let's end it. So, let's dedicate. So tomorrow, by the way, we're going to have the session for His Holiness' birthday. In that, we're going to recite the sutra, and I'll have a few other instructions about how to recite it quite properly for the most merits, more than filling up the world with 7 kinds of jewels. So by the way, I know I hope I didn't sound too critical. If you just take that very literally and say, I'm going to create all this merit from reciting the sutra or reciting Amitabha Buddha's name or whatever, and you do it, more power to you. It's great. I often think of this, in the Tibetan Buddhist calendar, there are these 4 special days where they say is like 100 million multiplying. Okay. Now, this is what we call an extremely hidden phenomena. I have no way to verify it, right? I just see it in the text. And I believe that the people who, then told this to me aren't trying to deceive me. But one day I thought about it like this. So on those wheel turning days, they say, these like merit multiplying days, I end up doing a lot more practice than I normally do. Most of the time I'm very lazy, right? So that day I'll wake up early, I'll take my precepts, I'll recite the whole like Sanghata Sutra, Vajra Sutra, I'll do all these things. Okay. So then I thought about it like this. Okay? Normal day, I don't recite the Vajra Sutra. Okay. Then because I believe this day I have 100 million multiplying mantra or merits, I recite the Vajra Sutra, right? So actually, compared to not reciting it at all, to reciting it one time, it's more than 100 million times more merits. You understand? Is it compared to zero? Zero times 100 million is still zero. So the fact that there are these teachings that say, hey, it's 100 multiplying, and we end up doing a lot more than we would, then, hey, take that very literally. If compared to doing no practice whatsoever, then at least we recite, we, pay homage to Amitabha Buddha. It's amazing. Okay. So please do that, but don't just be settled, satisfied with that. Also, then, try to create the other causal conditions. Okay. All right. Sorry. Let's dedicate the merit. For all sentient beings. Oh, what? What? Okay, yeah, we have some dedication. Yeah, go. We have an official order. Page 36.
These virtuous actions may quickly attain the state of the Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into heaven instant.
Did you guys get that? Due to this merit, might soon attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all sentient beings to that enlightened state. Yeah? Wonderful.
May that bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. For His Holiness the Dalai Lama, in the land encircled by its snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good, all powerful Chandras, Tenzin Gyatso. Please remain until samsara ends. Maybe this
Sure.
You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes the magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please that.
Yeah. So actually, you recited the long life prayer for Lamso Rinpoche. I think it'd be better at the end, just change the last one to to something about returning quickly, or may all your holy wishes be instantly fulfilled. Okay. So in case you didn't hear, first prayer to attain enlightenment, second prayer to attain bodhicitta in our hearts, then a long life prayer for His Holiness, and then we can say the swift return prayer for Lamso Rinpoche. That's great. Now, on my way walking over here this morning, I think I somehow was thinking about the advice I gave you guys yesterday, where if you met His Holiness, then to recite that verse from Adhisamaya. And I then got into a larger thought process of actually, if you had only one thing to say to His Holiness, what would be the most beneficial? Yes. So I think Dipti said, please remain until samsara ends. Okay, that's good. But then I'm also reminded of this one other verse that we say. Okay, it's a long one, but you guys know this. Kela Kuntu is all my lives. So in all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma by completing all the qualities of the stage and path, may I quickly attain the state of Vajra Dharma. So then this is combining being always guided by perfect gurus, then to enjoy the Dharma means have access to Dharma teachings. Then completing all the qualities on the stages and paths and quickly attaining enlightenment. So that's like a 4-in-1. I thought I might have given you a little bit, not the best advice, because what you're saying when you just say, quote that verse from Abhisamaya Kara to His Holiness, he'll know you're talking about bodhicitta. But it's not really an aspiration to generate bodhicitta yourself, right? So maybe even the one verse from Shantideva, as long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then man too remain, that's very good. But since you're meeting His Holiness, it would be very good to request him, like I did with Namjong Rinpoche the first time I met, to remain till the end of samsara and continue to guide us and teach us. And if you do that in whatever language, that's fine. Okay. So I'll revise my comments from yesterday. Do memorize that verse from Abhisamaya Kara because it's a great verse, and I think it'll help you. Just keep in mind those two elements of bodhicitta. But when you meet His Holiness, maybe we should think about something. Actually, what the best thing to say is. Okay. All right. That's it. Oh yeah, Mixema. So it's very common at the end of the teaching to then say Mixema. Can you share? Do you know where it is in the prayer book? So I'll just thank all of you while they're getting the screen share. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your efforts. And yeah. Thank you to CKSL over the years who've been really kind to me and allowed me all these wonderful opportunities to share something about Dharma.
I'll just say it.
Huh?
I'll just say it.
Okay. So Dipti will just say. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just, keep blah, blah, blah. But hopefully some of that was beneficial. See you next time.
Thank you. Wait, everyone, please. Thank you, Venerable.
Okay.
Tomorrow is such a perfect day. It's His Holiness's birthday. It's a Monday, I know, but we have Venerable here, and that's why it's perfect. We can all celebrate, chant the Vajra Sutra, and we can celebrate His Holiness's birthday here. So if you are in Bangalore, please take the time and come to the center. We are also offering lights for His Holiness, making light offerings here for His Holiness. So please come and participate with us. Of course, if you're not able to, we will be casting this online. So thank you all so much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Dipti. Okay.
This afternoon, we have a movie show from 4 to 7. We are showing Martin Scorsese's Kundun. So if you're in Bangalore, please join us. Bye.